What's going on, guys? It's fight season MMA, and today I want to talk about Ilia Topuria. Is he the best fighter inside the UFC? Is he the pound-for-pound #1 fighter within the organization? He is such an amazing fighter, all well-rounded. He's got great striking, maybe one of the best boxers we've seen within the organization, but also he is one of the best grapplers that are in the organization currently, and it is something that is crazy to see considering that Ilia has both games going at hand, and genuinely he is someone who can really move for the future and become one of the best featherweights of all time. In his last two fights, he's knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in the second round and knocked out Max Holloway in the third round this past weekend. And truly, Ilia's got such a bright future in front of him. But is Ilia Topuria the best fighter in the UFC right now? Because there's a very, very, very interesting question. He's knocked out two all-time greats in that featherweight division, so I definitely think that has something for him. But I kind of want to just talk about, is he #1 pound for pound within the organization? But if you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always notified about future UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video talking about, is Ilia Topuria the #1 pound for pound fighter in the UFC? So Ilia Topuria just came out this past weekend at UFC 308 and KO'd Max Holloway in the first round. Incredible finish. Someone who we've never thought would be knocked down inside the organization. Now, we all knew that kind of it might happen during time, considering that Holloway is one of those fighters who kind of puts himself always in the front fire and just kind of always puts himself right in the direct heat. And genuinely, he gets hit by so many punches and usually absorbs them. He's hit punches from some massive hitters like Volkanovski, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. He's shots from, but Ilia Topuria was the one to break him, and that is absolutely crazy considering that Ilia Topuria isn't necessarily the biggest featherweight out there, but Ilia Topuria, pound for pound, has got to be one of, if not the hardest strikers inside the UFC. Him and Alex Pereira are just different breeds when it comes to striking, but Ilia Topuria being so skilled and kind of being that certain fighter, does that make him the greatest fighter in the UFC? And what is this competition? Because if I look at that top, kind of pound for pound rankings, I think Ilia Topuria, I think is at 4 or 5 right now inside the organization. And after this fight with Max Holloway, does this push him into the #1 spot? Because genuinely, I think that this is a very interesting question at hand, because Topuria has shown to be so diverse throughout his entire UFC career with switching up different techniques, different tactics, his striking and everything in between. He's just an absolute weapon out there. But really, who would really have to contend with Ilia Topuria? Because I do think that it's pretty evident, in my opinion, pound for pound rankings, that the only person to contend with Ilia Topuria is Islam Makhachev. And 100%, I do think that Ilia Topuria, pound for pound, is better than Alex Pereira, John Jones, Tom Aspinall, anyone else go down the list. I think Ilia Topuria is better than them. The only person I have a question about is Islam Makhachev, and I kind of want to compare these two individuals and kind of talk about why Ilia is in this position and to what reason Islam could possibly be better than him. But Ilia Topuria has such a great Greco-Roman wrestling game. He was shown in this fight with Max Holloway in that first round. He kind of took down Max Holloway with ease. He kind of shot him with that double leg. Max was able to get up pretty quickly, but to show that Ilia Topuria could take that fight down at any part in will, it was a genuinely crazy thing. Also, in the final round of the Josh Emmett fight, Ilia Topuria went in there and took Emmett down to secure the victory. The Bryce Mitchell fight, he took Bryce Mitchell down, ragdolled him around to get, I think it was the arm triangle, and that was an incredible finish. But I think the icing on the cake for Ilia Topuria is just how good of a striker he is, and it really needs to be studied because he has some of the most beautiful pad work inside the UFC. And someone like Leon Edwards always has beautiful pad work, but he doesn't have that killer instinct like Ilia Topuria has. And Ilia Topuria is a genuine UFC just finishing artist. He goes in there and he KOs everyone, and it's something that's crazy considering that 3 of his last 4 fights have been finishes, and that's versus the top 10 inside the featherweight division, and no one does that on their way up. You don't go in there and finish Bryce Mitchell, take Josh Emmett to a decision to where some of the scorecards were 50-42, KO Volkanovski and KO Max Holloway like that and not be considered one of the best. But why would Islam Makhachev be a better fighter than Ilia Topuria in the pound for pound rankings? Now, you look at Islam's striking. Islam might not be as good of a striker as Ilia Topuria, but I do think that Islam is top 5 in the striking department. It was pretty evident that Islam is just tiers above everyone in the striking department. I think a big thing that helps him in that is that kind of grappling game, and I don't think people respect Ilia Topuria's grappling game quite like they respect Islam Makhachev. And I think that the more you respect the grappling game, it's only going to open up the striker furthermore. But also, Islam Makhachev has that ground game. He's probably the best wrestler inside the UFC. It's either between him and Khamzat got this massive win this weekend. It's probably between those two, but I'm going to still leave Islam right now, considering he's done it on the biggest stage, submitting Charles Oliveira, submitting Dustin Poirier, doing so many different things, taking down Volkanovski. Really, Islam Makhachev is one of probably the most well-rounded fighters in the organization, and Right now, considering that Ilia Topuria, yes, he has beat Alexander Volkanovski by KO, and he's beat Max Holloway by KO. I do think the Max Holloway win was a little bit more impressive for Ilia Topuria, considering that Volk might be a better fighter than Max. I just think that the stylistic matchup was so much harder for being Max than Volkanovski for Topuria. But I still think that Islam Makhachev is the pound for pound #1 king. I think that Islam's ground game, he's kind of proved it a little bit more in that war with Volkanovski. He doesn't really necessarily have that punching power. Volk looked incredible in that second fight. He obviously KO'd Volk in that 10 days notice, and I think that that's such an impressive win considering that it happened within the first round. It wasn't like it was a fifth round KO where Volk was tired or something like that coming off the couch. Like, Volk was fresh, Volk was doing some stuff, and he exploited some of Volk's weaknesses. But truly, Ilia Topuria knocked out Volk coming off that Islam Makhachev knockout, which there was kind of some question marks to that. And even this Max Holloway fight, you can put some question marks on that. But I don't want to do that to discredit Ilia's win. I do think it's very, very close, but I do think that Islam Makhachev still reigns in that top spot. I think that kind of the Swiss Army knife of grappling and striking, being top 5 in both categories, I think is a lot better than possibly being the best striker inside the UFC. It's either Ilia Topuria or Alex Pereira, in my opinion, in being like a top 15 grappler inside the organization. I do think that Ilia Topuria is also very smart. I think his confidence really helps him out inside the UFC octagon. Being able to go in there and understanding that you're just better than everyone else and that you have that heart and that will to go in there and win fights is something that not a lot of fighters have. So I think Ilia Topuria having that is an incredible blessing for him. I think it really helps him just be able to succeed and move leagues upon just so many different things. And I truly think that Ilia Topuria is a master in that featherweight division. Ultimately, like I said, Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, might not be the #1 pound for pound fighter right now, but I do think that he is on the rise to become the UFC's greatest featherweight. His featherweight title win and his first defense were over 2 of the 3 greatest featherweights in the organization. Alexander Volkanovski, long-reigning featherweight, knocked him out, something that no one's ever been able to do besides Islam Makhachev when he took that fight on 10 days notice. Volkanovski did, and knocking out Max Holloway, someone that really no one has ever done. Max Holloway hasn't even been knocked down, let alone knocked out in that incredible fashion. Ilia Topuria is a monster. I do think that Islam's better, and I think that's mainly just a credit to how good Islam is, rather than something saying that Topuria is bad. But ultimately, Ilia Topuria is an absolute monster out there. He's so good in every little thing he does. I truly think that Topuria is going to be the next featherweight GOAT, and I think that everything that he has, that incredible boxing, probably being the best boxer inside the UFC, and having that great ground game slots him right at the #2 pound for pound inside the UFC currently. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section of Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, being the #2 pound for pound fighter. Do you think that's too low? Do you think that's too high? Do you think that he was already the #2 pound for pound fighter, kind of like I did? Does this win massive for Ilia, beating Max Holloway in that fashion? Should he be #1? Are John Jones, Alex Pereira better, or any other fighter better? And just tell me what you think about this take, because I truly do think that this win over Max Holloway was absolutely monumental for Ilia Topuria. He's just such a good fighter. He's so well-rounded. He's kind of got everything in his arsenal, and genuinely some individual who can go out there and become the greatest featherweight in the world. He's got every single skill he needs. He's got a well-rounded fighting style. He's incredibly intelligent, and he's got that incredible, just unwavering confidence behind him, and a great team kind of coaching him through everything. Ilia Topuria has done everything to put in the work. The Matador is going to be here to stay. Currently, he's probably one of the most dangerous, most fun, exciting fighters in the organization, being a true KO artist. It's something so fun to watch, and Ilia Topuria is only increasing in stardom every single day. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the UFC content. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about future UFC content releasing every single day. Without further ado, I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.